Okay, let's start with a number. And this number is, frankly, a little terrifying if you were sitting in the C-suite right now. We're looking at some recent executive survey data, all about AI adoption. And the top line number, 96% of executives say they desperately need internal AI talent. I mean, that's basically everyone.
It's universal demand. At this point, it's not even a debate about if anymore. It's
Yeah.
just a how fast.
But here's the reality check, and this is the number that really, really matters. Less than 20% of those same executives feel they actually have that talent ready to scale. So you have this massive delta between we need this to survive and we actually have no idea who is going to do it.
It's the definition of a strategic bottleneck. And I think
Yeah.
for a long time, the assumption was, oh, the technology isn't ready, or it's too expensive.
Right.
But what this data is just screaming is that the tech is fine. The gap, it's people. It's a human capital crisis, not a software one.
Which brings us to the topic of today's deep dive. We're looking at the GPS Summit. Now, this is a training event, but based on the materials we've analyzed, the curriculum, the white papers, it's pitched as a very specific solution to this people gap.
Right.
And our mission today is pretty clear. We're looking at this through the eyes of a business leader, someone who is skeptical of the hype, probably tired of writing checks to consultants, and wants to know, can you actually train your own people to fix this?
And that's skepticism about consultants. That's exactly where we should start. Because when companies see a gap like this, 96% need it, 20% have it, the knee-jerk reaction is to rent the talent.
Of course.
You hire the big consulting firm, you pay the retainer, you bring in the guys in the nice suits.
It's the safe play, or at least it feels like the safe play because you can put it on a budget line item.
It feels safe. But the materials we're looking at today argue it's actually a trap. I mean, think about it. A consultant brings great external knowledge, sure, but they don't know your business context. They don't know why your customer data from 2019 is a total mess, or why the sales team ignores the CRM.
Or why Mary in accounting does that one specific thing with the spreadsheet.
Exactly. They don't know where the bodies are buried.
Oh, right.
So they build a solution in a vacuum.
Right.
And then the engagement ends. The consultant leaves. And they take all that accumulated knowledge right out the door with them. You're left with a knowledge gap and, usually a recurring invoice if you want to fix anything. You haven't built an asset. You've just rented a temporary fix.
So the whole premise of the GPS Summit is basically stop renting intelligence, start building it.
Precisely. It's about asset creation right inside your own walls.
Okay, so if we aren't hiring the consultant, who are we looking for? The summit introduces this role called the AI Systems Generalist. Now, I have to be honest, when I hear systems, my brain goes straight to IT. I'm picturing a server room or maybe a Python coder with headphones on in the dark.
Yeah.
But looking at the profile here, that's not really who they're talking about, is it?
No, and that is probably the single most important distinction in this entire thing. If you take away one thing, it's this. The AI Systems Generalist is not necessarily a coder. They are a connector.
A connector.
Think about how a business actually works. Marketing needs data from finance. Operations needs data from sales. AI sits right in the middle of all that. It doesn't respect departmental silos. So if you hire a pure AI expert, someone who just knows code, they often fail because they don't understand the business flow. The generalist is designed to sit right at that intersection.
So they're cross-functional. They can speak ops, they can speak marketing, and they can speak machine.
Exactly. They're looking for bottlenecks in operations, content intelligence opportunities in marketing, forecasting improvements in finance. It's a holistic view. And this leads to their recruitment strategy, which they call the HiPo.
HiPo. High potential employee. I've heard this term in HR circles, but how does it apply to AI?
The argument is, don't go out and try to hire some $300,000 AI engineer who doesn't even know your company exists. Look inside.
Okay.
Who's the person who's already curious? He's the director or the manager who already has, organizational trust.
The person who knows which meetings are a total waste of time and who actually holds the keys to getting things done.
That's the HiPo. And the GPS Summit's thesis is that it is infinitely faster to teach a trusted employee how to use AI than it is to teach an AI expert your entire business culture.
Right.
You can teach a smart manager how to prompt an AI in a weekend. You can't teach an engineer 10 years of company culture in a weekend.
That makes so much sense. You're just layering a new tool set onto an existing foundation of business knowledge.
It's applied intelligence. That's the key. It's not theoretical. It's taking someone who knows the reality of your P&L and giving them a force multiplier.
Okay, so we've identified the problem, the people gap, and the candidate. the HiPo. Let's get into the meat of this. We have the full 3-day schedule for the summit here, and frankly, looking at it chronologically is a bit overwhelming. You've got breakout sessions, labs, keynotes. So I want to break this down by the 3 strategic pillars they mention: people, process, and tech.
That's the right way to slice it. That's the triad they keep referring to.
And what jumped out at me immediately is that the tech pillar, the actual AI tools, seems to be the last thing they focus on, which feels kind of counterintuitive for an AI conference.
It is surprising, but it's actually the hallmark of a mature implementation strategy. If you lead with tech, you usually fail. You have to start with people.
So let's look at pillar 1, people lab. This seems to be the focus of day 1 and parts of day 2. There's a module here called the AI Systems Generalist imperative. It sounds a bit dramatic, but what's the actual shift they're trying to create there?
They're trying to break the user mindset. Most employees right now are users. They log into ChatGPT, they ask a question, they get an answer. That's passive. The summit wants to turn them into force multipliers.
What does that look like in practice, though?
It starts with what they call becoming a detective for inefficiency. I love this concept. It teaches the employee to stop just doing their job and start scanning the organization for friction. Where are we wasting time? Where is data getting retyped manually? Where are we doing things just because that's how we've always done it?
So instead of just complaining about the boring parts of the job, they are actively hunting them down.
Yes. But then, and this is the part that I think is really smart, they move into organizational DNA, this on day 2. They dive into this people, process, purpose framework.
This is where it gets political, isn't it?
It has to. You can have the best AI agent in the world, but if the VP of sales feels threatened by it, or if it clashes with the company culture, it will die on the vine. This training teaches the generalist to read those room dynamics.
It's almost like corporate anthropology, learning to identify who holds the power and who is going to resist the change.
Correct. And they cap it off with this vital leader concept. They want the employee to return not just with skills, but with a new identity. If they don't see themselves as a core driver of business growth, they won't have the confidence to push through the resistance they're inevitably going to face. Because let's be honest, people get nervous when you start automating things.
Absolutely. So that's the people side getting the mindset and the political savvy right. Okay, now let's move to pillar 2, process. This is the part that I think will actually comfort a lot of the nervous CEOs listening, because the fear, and it's a valid one, is that AI is just going to hallucinate or break things or embarrass the company.
That is a very real fear. And the summit addresses it head-on with a session called Optimization Before Automation. This is basically the golden rule of AI implementation. Don't automate a bad process.
Simple. Simple, but so rarely followed. If you have a chaotic, undefined workflow, say, your invoicing process is a mess of sticky notes and random emails, and you add AI to it, you don't get efficiency. You get scaled chaos.
Wow.
You just make mistakes 1,000 times faster.
So they force the attendees to look at standard operating procedures, SOPs, first.
Yes. They have to document the workflow step by step. Only when the process is clean are they allowed to touch the AI. But the part that really speaks to the executive safety concerns is the module on governance, shadow AI, and policy.
Shadow AI. That sounds ominous. Define that for us.
Shadow AI is what is already happening in your company right now, whether you know it or not. It's when your employees are secretly pasting sensitive company data sales figures, strategy documents, client lists into public tools like ChatGPT.
Just to write an email or analyze a spreadsheet?
Right, because they want to get the job done faster. They aren't trying to be malicious.
But they're doing it without any oversight.
And it's a massive security leak. You are potentially feeding your private IP into a public model. So the generalist is trained to act as the police.
Not police. More like urban planners. They learn to establish privacy policies and data security frameworks. It's about creating a safe sandbox. They bring the usage into the light so the company can innovate without exposing itself to liability.
Okay.
It turns the generalist from a rogue operator into a compliance asset.
That seems like a huge selling point for the leadership team. You're not just getting speed, you're getting safety.
Okay, let's talk about pillar 3, tech. We can't ignore it. But looking at the schedule, they aren't teaching Python coding 101. They aren't teaching how to backpropagate a neural network.
No, because that's not what moves the needle for a business. They start by just demystifying the stack explaining tokens, context windows, the difference between Claude and GPT.
Let's pause there. For the listener who might hear context window and their eyes glaze over,
Right.
what is that in plain English?
Think of it as the AI's short-term memory. If you're trying to have it analyze a 50-page contract, but it has a small context window, it's going to forget page 1 by the time it gets to page 50.
Understanding these limits is crucial, so you don't ask the tool to do something it physically can't do.
Okay, so they learn the mechanics, but the real buzzword here, and we see it all over the industry right now, is agents. How is the summit explaining agents to a business operator?
This is the shift from chatbot to employee. A chatbot talks to you. An agent does things for you. They're teaching these generalists to build autonomous systems that can actually use tools.
Give me an example. What's the difference between asking ChatGPT to write an email versus an agent?
Okay, asking ChatGPT is, here is some data, write a summary. You still have to copy, paste, open your email client, and hit send. An agent is, go into my CRM, look at all the leads who haven't replied in 30 days, draft a personalized follow-up based on their last purchase, and save it as a draft in my outbox.
It's executing multi-step tasks across different software.
Exactly. It manages memory, it makes decisions. And that leads to the concept they introduced on day 3, which has a name that I can see causing some eye rolls in the boardroom. Vibe coding.
Vibe coding. Yeah, that sounds like something a teenager does on TikTok. It sounds very Gen Z. What does it actually mean in a business context?
It's a terrible name for a brilliant concept. Just translate it to rapid application development via natural language.
Okay, that sounds more corporate.
It's the 10x mindset. In the old days, if you wanted a piece of software to track inventory, you'd have to submit a ticket to IT, wait 6 months, have budget meetings.
And by the time you get it, you don't need it anymore. Or the whole process has changed.
Right. Vibe coding is teaching non-coders how to use AI to write the code for them. You tell the AI, I want a simple app where I can scan a barcode and it updates a spreadsheet. The AI writes the Python script, builds the interface, and you have a working prototype in an afternoon.
So it democratizes software creation.
Yeah.
It takes the power out of the hands of the high priests of IT and gives it to the people actually doing the work.
Completely. And this brings us to the most important strategic takeaway of the tech pillar, the build versus buy implication. This is where we get into the ROI. Let's transition to that because this is the closer for any executive listening. Why is this training a cost saver?
Because enterprise software is incredibly expensive. We've all got subscription fatigue. On day 3, the generalist learns a build versus buy decision framework. It's a matrix with, I think, 8 factors. They learn to analyze a problem and say, do we really need to pay a vendor $50,000 a year for the SaaS product? Or can we build an internal tool for cheap that does exactly what we need?
That is massive. That one decision could pay for the entire cost of the summit 10 times over.
Easily. And even if you decide to buy, having a generalist who understands the tech makes you a much smarter buyer. You won't get bamboozled by sales jargon. You can look at a vendor and say, I know that's just a GPT wrapper, so I'm not paying enterprise prices for it.
But the ROI isn't just about saving money on software. It's about proving value. I see they spend a lot of time on AI, ROI, and measurement frameworks.
The executive dashboard, this is crucial.
Because usually people just say, oh, AI is cool, it helps me write faster.
Which means nothing to a CFO. Cool doesn't go on the balance sheet. The summit teaches them to establish baselines before implementation. This process currently takes 4 hours and costs us $200 in labor.
Right.
Then, after the AI agent is built, now it takes 15 minutes and costs $5. You track that delta, you put a dollar figure on productivity.
That accountability is what turns this from a science project into a business strategy. But my favorite part of the ROI argument here, and maybe this is just because I've been burned by conferences before, is the 90-day execution roadmap. Because we all know that Monday morning hangover.
The sugar crash. You get all hyped up in Vegas, you have these big ideas, and then you get back to the office on Monday. Your inbox is full, your boss is angry about something, and you just forget everything.
How does the GPS Summit prevent that?
They seem obsessed with it. They have a 30-day survival strategy built right into the curriculum.
What does survival mean in this context?
It's managing expectations. When the hypo gets back, everyone is going to want magic. Fix my email, automate my reports, build me an app. The roadmap helps them filter that. It focuses on securing quick wins, low-hanging fruit, to build confidence and momentum in that first month while quietly tackling the bigger structural changes in the background.
So they aren't just leaving with inspiration, they are leaving with a certified battle plan.
Correct. They return as a certified operator.
Yeah.
That is the asset you are buying.
I want to zoom out a bit for our final thought here. We've talked about the gaps, the skills, the plan, but I want to play devil's advocate. Why send someone to Las Vegas for 3 days? Why not just have them take an online course from MIT or Stanford?
Yeah.
We see those advertised all the time, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, prestigious certificates.
It's a fair question. And look, those academic programs are fantastic for theory.
Hmm.
If you want to understand the history of neural networks or the math behind transformers, go to Stanford. But in business, speed is a feature. The GPS Summit is an intensive. It's about speed to competency.
Immersion versus drip feeding.
Exactly. You lose an employee for 3 days and they come back changed. An 8-week online course often gets buried under the daily grind. It's 2 hours a week. Maybe you watch the videos while checking email. Maybe you don't. It doesn't create a transformation. It's the difference between reading a book about swimming and actually jumping in the pool.
And there's a note here about the corporate cohort advantage. They actually recommend sending more than one person.
That's strategic. If you send one person, they're a lone wolf. They come back speaking a language nobody else understands. Agents, vibe coding, context windows, they just sound crazy.
And crazy people get ignored.
But if you send 2 or 3 HiPos, maybe one from ops, one from marketing, one from HR, they create a shared language. They form a microculture. They can support each other when things get hard. It reduces the friction of reentry because they aren't the only ones trying to push the rock up the hill.
It creates a nucleus of innovation immediately.
Exactly. And that nucleus is what spreads the culture change through the rest of the organization.
So let's wrap this up with the bottom line. If I'm a business owner listening to this, I'm looking at the price tag, the travel costs, the time away from the desk. It's an investment.
It is. But you have to view it through the lens of that opening statistic. 96% of your competitors know they need this. 80% of them can't figure out how to do it. This isn't a cost. It's an asset acquisition. You are building the internal muscle to survive the next 5 years.
It's about autonomy. It's about survival. And it's about keeping that institutional knowledge, the stuff that actually makes your company unique inside the building.
That's the key. Don't rent your future. Build it.
So for those listening, the call to action is pretty clear. You probably already have a person in mind as we were talking. That person who is always complaining about inefficient processes or always looking for a better tool, that's your HiPo. The GPS Summit is in Las Vegas, February 2026.
Identify the HiPo, secure the spot, and activate the transformation. It really is that simple.
And here's a final thought to mull over. We talked a lot about automating internal tasks reports, emails, spreadsheets. But what happens when your internal generalist builds an agent that can negotiate with your external vendors?
That is a fascinating possibility.
Imagine an agent that autonomously renegotiates your sauce contracts or your supply chain pricing 24/7, using data no human could parse that quickly. The ROI on this might be weirder and significantly bigger than we can even predict right now.
We are just scratching the surface. It changes the fundamental economics of the firm.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.
See you then.